Welcome back, friends. We are starting things today, the Jared Whitley Dice Tower Top 100 Games of All Time 2016. Now, I say that. These are not my top 100 games of 2016 right now. These are my top 100 games of all time. And so today, we are starting with my legacy games. These are 10 games which are very important in framing my gaming character, let's call it, but that I don't necessarily continue to play. So, let's begin. Now, number 100 is Monster Chase. This is a game I actually learned about thanks to the Dice Tower. Melody Vassal had recommended it, and I was looking for a game to give my nephews and nieces. I don't actually own the game because I give the copy to them. Sometimes I'll play with them when I visit. It's a card game. It's basically a memory game, and there's a fun aspect to it where you're trying to chase monsters away who they come and invade your closet. And there's this nice speech act that's part of the game where when you reach a certain milestone you say, "Go back into the closet, you monster," which, when you're playing with a 5-year-old, is very fun to do. Now, I put this in the legacy category because we don't really play it anymore. My nephews and nieces have got a little bit older, so we have other better games that we can play with them, which I'm sure some of them will appear later on this list. But there you go, number 100, Monster Chase. Now, number 99 is 3 Dragon Ante, and I brought my copy of it here. You can see this box has seen a lot of action. 3 Dragon Ante, it's sort of from the dark ages of Dungeons & Dragons themed games before Lords of Waterdeep came out. What it is it's a card game kind of like Rummy or Hearts or whatever, where you get sets of different types of dragons. You see there's your silver dragon and your blue dragon, your red dragon, and they have different powers, and you try to take different trumps, I guess is what you call that, when you're collecting your sets. So the beauty part with 3 Dragon Ante is that not only can you play with your friends just normally as a card game like you would anything else, Rummy or whatnot, but it's designed to be played in-universe in Dungeons & Dragons. So you go to the tavern, and you're not just talking with the NPCs there, but you can actually play a game with them, right? And so instead of just like, here, I'm going to roll a die to see if I can outwit them, you can try to outwit them with the card game. They also did one thing at one point with a Ravenloft module, where, there are these gypsies in Ravenloft who tell your future, and they had different ways of using cards for it. You could use playing cards for the fortune telling, or you could use tarot cards, or you could use your actual 3 Dragon Ante. So it's a great cross-promotional game. It hasn't had the best legs, or if you will, wings, because, to be fair, it's not a fantastic game, but I'm sure those clever wizards on that certain coast will come up with other great product placement type games that will incorporate elements that we're familiar with from fantasy and help us transport to the realm of Dungeons and Dragons. Now there's a sequel, it's called 3 Dragon Ante Emperor's Gambit, but I haven't played that. If any of you have, feel sure to let me know about it in the comments below, and maybe I'll check it out. But there you go, number 99, 3 Dragon Ante. So, next number on the list is Pirate's Cove. Now, some of you may be familiar with this. We've talked about it on the Dice Tower before. It's popular in its own right. Pirate's Cove is a fantastic pirate game, incorporating all the elements you need in terms of exploration, pick up and deliver, building your ship and your crew, and, of course, combat. Now, the other thing that's nice is the components and the artwork are amazing. You have this little tableau where you build your ship up and you can modify its attributes in terms of how much it can carry or how tough the hull is or how good the crew is. It's a terrific game. Now I played this, I guess it came out in 2005, and so this I'd played before I really got into the hobby in 2008, 2009. So it has a fondness in my heart. If you put a flintlock pistol to my head, I would probably choose to play Merchants and Marauders or any one of the other new pirate games that have come out. But a seminal game in my gaming history, and if we're at a convention and we got a spare hour and you say, hey, let's play Pirate's Cove, I will say, Vast ye mateys, a Spanish galleon off the port bow.
A vast ye matey? What the hell does that mean? 20 degrees off the starboard side, it's a Spanish galleon. There's no comeback for that.
So, number 98, Pirate's Cove. So, even though it may be popular to dog on this game, and I may have even dogged on it before recently, especially last year when it celebrated its 20th anniversary, I do think it would be wrong of me not to include on my top 100 games of all time certain Settlers of Catan. Now, I've probably played Settlers more than any other game on this list except 3 different games, right? So it is seminal. It is important. We can never underestimate that. Now, something that I do really love about this game, I admire that it introduced, is this idea that it's always your turn, right? You're always collecting resources or trading. There's never a time where you're just sitting and waiting. Moreover, the whole idea of the modular board and the way that you can't just adopt the same strategy every time, fantastic. If every game were as solid and as replayable as this, I think there would be no poverty or warfare on all of Earth. Am I right?
No.
Yes,
Right?
yes,
Okay.
yes. Okay. In fact, just recently, just last week, I had a group of roommates many years ago, and 3 of us would always play Settlers, and 1 of us wouldn't. And he always thought we were stupid for doing so, for playing this game. But just last week, he sent us an email wherein he said, P.S. I finally started playing Settlers of Catan after refusing to play for years. And I love it! Exclamation point. I wish I didn't blow you guys off so much to play it back in the day. So even now, in 2016, Settlers is finding new converts. I probably wouldn't want to play it every week, or even more than once a year, but I do want to put a plug in for the Settlers of Catan Junior. And if you want to introduce this game to young people, it's a fantastic variant. Great components. They have these little cutlasses in the game as some of the resources you can do to simulate the whole idea of piracy and whatnot, like we talked about before. It's fantastic. I mean, we'll still probably be talking about this game 10 years from now, maybe 15 years from now. Probably not 20 years from now, because by then the singularity will have happened and robots will have taken over. But for the next 10, 15 years, it will still be on my top 100 list. So number 97, Settlers of Catan. Now, for number 96 and 95, I have 2 customizable card games. I never really played Magic the Gathering. I never really got into it. But I did, when they were popular, enjoy the phenomenon of the customizable card game until I went into rehab and was able to break my addiction to those. The one I wanted to start out with is called Middleearth The Wizards. And here's the thing I love about this game. Most games set in Tolkien's Middle-earth adopt this idea of, okay, well, we're the hobbits and we need to go to Mordor, right? And it's just replicating the story we've already seen. But there's this huge, rich universe that we have that he created, where there's thousands of years of history, and every village is populated with a history of its own, and there are like 7 different words in Elvish for leaf. My favorite one, I looked it up today, it's Aseya. It's spelled right there, of course, with the 2 dots, because what would a fantasy word be without dots? And unfortunately, there's no Y instead of an I, but, it gets there. Anyway, the thing I like about this is it's a sandbox where we take everything in the Tolkien universe, and you can win without ever playing hobbits, without ever going to Mordor, without ever doing anything with the One Ring. And I just love that idea, the sandbox in the Tolkien universe. Nothing else has replicated it quite so well. I don't play this game because the customizable card game doesn't lend itself as much to social play, which is something that I think is really important in our hobby. And also, all my cards probably back at my parents' house, and it's a 20-year-old game that'd be hard to get people excited anyway. But it is fantastic, and I do think any future Tolkien games should look to that for inspiration. So there's number 96, Middle-earth The Wizards. Okay, number 95, also a CCG from a intellectual property, is the Star Trek card game from Decipher. It's also more than 20 years old. So you pick one of 3 factions, the Federation, the Klingon, or the Romulans. Of course, expansions came out to let you pick other races and people. And you explore and fight with other people. You set up a timeline, right, of all these different missions, and you move your ships around and you pick your crew. And it worked extremely well as the template for future Star Trek games. So they went through the TV show and found these are the ships that are cool, these are the characters that are cool, these are the situations in universe that lend themselves to gamification, right? Because a lot of Star Trek is your classic I must, but I must not dilemma, which is not as easy to gamify as shooting things, which I think is one reason Star Wars is generally a little more popular than Star Trek for this. But this is a terrific game. I played it a lot way back in the day in high school. Probably wouldn't play it now, but whenever I see any Star Trek themed game, whether it's your fleet captains or attack wing, I always think that it is borrowing heavily from the model set up by Star Trek customizable card game. You could say that it was the one that boldly went, and the others followed. So, number 95, Star Trek the card game. So we come to 94, which is the first of 6 party games on my list. It is Taboo. Now, Taboo is a game that I still play sometimes. For example, Christmas time when you're back home and you got family, and no one remembered to bring Dixit. That's the perfect time to play Taboo. So the way it works is you'll get a card, and it's got the word that you're supposed to get your teammates to guess, and then there are 5 other words that closely associated with that you're not allowed to say, right? So these 6 words are taboo, which is where the gameplay comes in. So they eliminate the most obvious solution that you try to do, and you get people to guess. Now, if you ever get stuck, you should always guess Walter Cronkite. That's the one that people, especially nowadays, I'm sure there's newer editions that wouldn't even include Walter Cronkite, but that was the one that we would get stuck on a lot. So it's the go-to solution. The Walter Cronkite game, if you will. Now, it's very similar to the game Catchphrase, since some of you might be familiar with. And also, I read on Wikipedia as I was researching this, Taboo was the basis for a 2002 game show of the same name on Spike TV, hosted by comedian Chris Wilde. So Taboo, not just a great parlor game, but apparently a great game show as well. Number 94, Taboo. So, we come to number 93, and the next one on my list of legacy games. Now this, in high school, this was our anti-drug. In fact, I think if we'd actually gotten into drugs, we would have spent less time and certainly less money than we did on this game, which was Shadowrun. This is an RPG, not a board game, although Shadowrun has existed in many different forms of media. Board games, card games, video games, books, probably a series of videos on YouTube, I'm not sure. We celebrated the year of Shadowrun a couple years ago. I don't know what really happened with that. I remember hearing a lot about it, but never really getting into it. But back in the day, we played this game all the time. Now, the thing that Shadowrun does so well is they invented a lot of jargon, sort of like futuristic slang, that pulls you into the universe. It's very similar to how, and in Battlestar Galactica, how you can say, what the frack, right? And that shows that you're a fan of the show. Shadowrun did that, but 100 times more type of slang words that you can use. Like saying, you pay your new yen and you take your chances, chummer. That kind of thing. We loved this, played it all through high school. Probably if I get together with friends from then nowadays, I could quote it, and they would snigger, and we'd remember times when we were deckers or riggers or street samurai or shamans or whatever. It's a terrific game. Now, there's still some legs to the franchise, right? With the Shadowrun Crossfire, which I am embarrassed to admit I've never played. Probably someone's fault for never teaching me.
No, not me.
But it's on my list of games to play in 2016. Shadowrun, where man meets magic and machine. Number 93. Okay, so 10,000 or Farkle is a very simple dice game with a push your luck element. Idea is you have six-sided dice, and you roll, and you can get the game Farkle, that's like the branded version, or you can just grab 6 normal dice and look up the rules on the internet and then just keep score with a pad and paper. Very simple. The idea is you roll the dice and different combinations get you different points. And if you hit certain milestones, then the dice pool refreshes and you get to re-roll it and you can keep going and getting more and more points and pushing your luck. But if you push too far and things don't work well, then you lose all your points and you start over and the dice go on to the next person. Further in problemating the strategy of the game is however many points you get, the next person down the line can build off of those. So you might be getting yourself a lot of points, but if you stop at the wrong point, you might make it too easy for someone else to take advantage of your success. It's very simple. I mean, you could take this to the beach, right? You just need like a frisbee upside down and a piece of paper and then some dice. Very simple, very easy. I don't know if I'd play it as much nowadays because there are so many dice games to choose from, some of which will appear on this list. But absolutely, 10,000 is one of my favorite games of all time. Number 92, 10,000. So my next game, final one of my legacy games, is Mahjong. Ancient game of Chinese wisdom, where you harness the power of dragons, the winds, bamboo, and even the seasons to expand and dominate. I have not played this game in a very long time, but you better believe I have a copy. Now, some of you may have played Mahjong on your computer, and there's a version that was popular a while ago of that, which is like a memory game. It's not really what the actual Mahjong is like, which is more like Rummy, but with these cool, chunky tiles instead of cards. The thing I love best about it is there's all kinds of variants to the rules, and like crazy scoring that you can do with the game, where you get some sort of combination and it's worth 1,000 points rather than just the points that are with you. And because there's so many different tiles and combinations, there's no limit to the kind of stuff you can do. And then there's the strategy there of, do I try to get a bunch of runs and go for a quick victory, or do I try to get some of these more complicated sets and get a larger sum at the end? So there's some variability there, which I really like. Now, there's even actually an episode of Seinfeld where they play Mahjong.
I don't know what happened to him. 9 bam.
1 dot. 2 crack. 3 bam.
Mahjong.
Anyway, there you go. It's actually in I feel like the spiritual successor to Mahjong is Tichu. So if you like Tichu, you may enjoy going back and looking at Mahjong. And that is my number 91, the last on my legacy list. Well, thanks for coming with us on the journey. Next time we will be discussing my guilty pleasure games. Games which I enjoy that are not technically very good games.
Strip poker.
Whoa, okay. Let's make sure we cut at that. Thank you for coming with us on the journey, and we will see you next time.